Hello, everybody, and welcome to Weebing Out with Digi and Ninouh. I'm here.
Title notwithstanding.
Tentative title.
Yeah.
I'm here with Ninouh. Say hello.
Hi, konnichiwa, minasan. Minasan genki desu ka? Okay, yeah, enough of that.
Depending on what channel you're watching this on, you might know me or him.
Yeah.
I'm Digi Bro. I do anime analysis videos, usually very frequently.
Yeah.
And what do you do, Ninouh?
What do? I sit on my ass and don't make videos, but when I eventually actually make one, they usually call this thing called anime editorial, where I basically discuss whatever appeals to my sensibilities in the world of anime. It could be from fan service to what's airing this season to whatever. Even, this podcast might have the editorial name slapped on it, whether Digi likes it or not.
On your channel you can title it whatever you want. We're releasing this on both of our channels. So this is about, speaking of current season, we're both watching a lot of current season shows, yeah?
Yep.
And decided to talk about it. I wanted a context to talk about current shows, and Jimmy and I, which I'm going to call you Jimmy because it's just easier.
Yes, because I don't know if I should call you Digi or Conrad. Digi sounds a lot
not a lot of
natural.
people know me by Conrad the way
true.
they know you as Jimmy. So
true, that is definitely true.
And I respond to Digi just as easily as my real name. So
anyway, we're going to be discussing the anime that are currently airing.
Yes.
And
the new ones. We're not going to talk about the ones that have been airing for
exactly. Yeah, none of the leftovers. So we're going to discuss them as we see them on AniChart. So
yeah,
I mean, if it would be fun if you guys can open up AniChart, go to the summer section and read along with us.
Oh yeah, I guess we got to do them in order then.
Definitely. I guess so.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
I mean, if either of us isn't watching a show, we'll both make it very clear, right? Because I'm not gonna sit here and lie that I've seen a show that I haven't seen.
Jimmy. The reason I wanted to do this podcast with Jimmy in particular is that both of us have a tendency to look into the backgrounds of shows a lot. We know a lot about creators and stuff like that, and we've been just having really long conversations about these shows anyways, and spamming other people's chats. So we figured we might as well sit down and hash it all out ourselves. So
exactly,
I guess without further ado, we can get started. I'm looking at anychart.net/summer, and the first show listed is Akagami no Shirayukihime.
Okay, so this one's one that I wouldn't have watched if not for Digi, because everyone knows I'm in no way a shoujo kind of person. Right. These shows are usually something I stay away with like the plague. But, stay away from... I try and avoid these kinds of shows a lot because they usually devolve into the girl trying to win the heart of the guy, and it makes it really easy to see that all of the saccharine nature is just pure, it really rubs me the wrong way. But This one, surprisingly, is actually... It just shows how far you can get with a good production studio.
Yeah.
Because Bones have been able to hash a lot of good stuff out with this one.
I agree. I'm concerned so far, because I've seen the first 2 episodes. I love them. By the way, this show is called Snow White with Red Hair, I believe. Is the English translation. That it's on Funimation.
That kind of actually summarizes the plot line, because basically if you were to condense the plot of this one, and I'm going to try and do this for all the shows, think Snow White if instead of the evil queen, it was an asshole who wanted to dick Snow White,
right? And
instead of Prince Charming, it was just another asshole who wants to dick Snow White.
Well, he's
slightly less of an asshole, sure. But
that would be the first episode at least. Have you seen episode 2 at all?
I haven't seen episode 2 yet.
So episode 2 is basically she moves into the country that the prince who saved her rules over. She's on an island trying to do this test to become an herbalist, and she gets kidnapped by some random guy for her hair. She escapes him, and then the prince comes and sort of helps her. It's one of these shows. There's a lot of these where it's trying to to play this balancing act between having a strong female protagonist who is like gonna save herself and like be a badass and be snarky and funny, but also have the dashing prince who comes to save her in the end, you know?
Yeah.
Like it has it both ways, where like she has this really great escape from this mansion that she gets kidnapped and taken to, right? She's kind of a badass. She gets out, she tricks the guy who captured her. She's almost fully escaped, and then, you know, the guy like at the last minute, it's like, oh well, I've still got you, and then the prince comes and saves her at the last second, and it's like it's like trying to have its cake and eat it too in that regard. And
I mean, loads of shows try and like manage this kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it, like, even from the first episode, which is the only one I've seen, like I could definitely see that, but you only see that towards the end when like she slaps the apple out of his hand. Like that's, you know, that is that part was, you know, a bit more of the proactive female kind of thing. And at the same time, in anime, I like they're trying to play on the two dudes who are they're both, you know, fairly good looking, and they both could look like main characters in their own right. And funny enough, I'm looking at the seiyus, they're both voiced by guys who are main character actors. Like Raji, the main bad guy, is voiced by Jun Fukuyama.
Yeah.
Who,
I don't
if you don't
know that guy's. I mean, I guess he probably will turn up again, but he didn't turn up again in episode 2. Like
no, because I went to the wiki, you know, just for the sake of checking out the wiki, and apparently he's the like main villain of the first part of the series.
All right, that
like,
makes
so
sense.
He will probably show up again. And for those of you who don't know who Jun Fukuyama is,
he was Lelouch.
He's basically the Johnny Young Bosch of Japan. well, maybe Johnny Young Bosch is the English version of him.
Right.
But yeah, like he's a lot of things. Like just just click his page.
I didn't realize that AniChart had like such a huge database now. Like it was. They've gotten pretty big. Yeah. And Ryoto Otsuka is also, well, he's younger than Jun Fukuyama, but he's getting to that point of being nearly every character, like I guess. Like he was Haruto in Valve Rave, so yeah. So my overall impression of this, I'm a big fan of Masahiro Ando as a director, because he's the director of Sword of the Stranger. He did and the upcoming what's it called? Under the Dog. Yeah, assuming that's actually gonna happen.
Assuming it's gonna happen, and assuming it's, you know,
great.
Assuming it's gonna
be good,
amount to anything.
Yeah. He directed Zetsuen no Tempest. He directed Kanan and Hanasaku Iroha. His shows always have just splendid animation and very, very good action scenes. Even when the budgets are like more or less null, the choreography this guy is able to pull off. And you can even, I feel like this is the wrong dude to direct the show, because you can tell that there's an action show brewing under the surface of the show. Oh, the second episode has more of those like really well done action scenes, but it is a Bones show, and I mean they always have great action scenes. And it's like it's like they can't help it; it's in their blood. Yeah, it's like this is like telling John Woo to direct the Disney adaptation of the live action adaptation of Snow White, more or less. I bet he'd do it. He'd do it, and if you look at modern, that's the other thing. Actually, now that you've made me think about it, because it's sort of Snow White, and it's I mean that's in the title. It's like this somewhat fairy tale fantasy, right? Yeah. And I will say that the one thing that bothers me about the show, it is very saccharine in a way that that is kind of like, and it doesn't have a plot yet. Like, as of the first 2 episodes, I don't know where it's going, and like, the aesthetic is so great. Like, this show, because it's trying to balance an Iyashike kind of vibe, and like Iyashike itself, like Iyashike is a term meaning like soothing. Pleasure, like soothing and pleasure, like pleasurable. Other shows that kind of have that vibe to them are like Mushishi or Keion, shows that have like a really somber, slow vibe that aren't necessarily about driving a certain plot, but about it's got a little bit of that nature to it. I think it's just trying. What I'm worried about, and this is something that happens in most of Masahiro Ando's work, regardless of who writes it, but it's usually because Okada Mari's writing it. But like his shows have a tendency to start off very strong and be really well produced, really aesthetically pleasing, but the plot just kind of turns into a clusterfuck.
That's what happened to Zetsu no Tempest.
Yes, Zetsu no Tempest just kind of becomes like, what the hell am I watching? Kanan very much becomes, what the hell am I watching? You know?
And the thing is, between the airing of Noragami and what was that show called, and Eureka 7 AO, there was like a dead zone for Bones. Like they had this, they had blown a lot of their money and lost it on the production of Eureka 7 AO, right, and they weren't, which was very, badly received. Right. So in that dead zone, shows like Zetsu no Tempest came out, and everyone was expecting those kinds of shows to have, mediocre production values. But, Ando was able to hash it out. He was able to make the best use of the talent. Like it did strain itself at certain points with the overuse of CG and whatnot. Yeah. But it did back itself up with that's the thing. And people miss what we say when we say choreography. When you can make a bad action scene look decent if you know how to stage the camera and the characters. That's what choreography means. Like
choreography to me is way more important than actual animation quality, because I want to know. I want to not only, first of all, I want to comprehend what's happening, and a lot of anime don't even make it that far. They have action scenes where you don't really get what the characters are doing. You just see them moving around a lot,
And no, that's the problem with shows that's the problem with anything made by A1 Pictures.
Yes.
They usually have great animation. The stuff is fluid. It's vibrant.
Sword Art Online. Let's call it like it is. Yeah. The best example that everybody knows.
Sword Art Online. Yeah, that's the thing. People always tell me, how can you hate Sword Art Online? It looks great, and I'm it's animated well.
I just watched.
There are frames.
I just watched a part of the last arc that I hadn't watched yet. Me and my brother were watching it, and there's this big fight between Asuna and
I saw that.
This black-haired girl, and it does this thing, and we're gonna talk about this. Actually, you know what? Let's save this discussion of bad action choreography for another show that I want to talk about it on, and we need to move on because we've been talking about the show for a while. Overall,
are you watching overall?
I'd say I'm gonna keep watching Shirayukihime. I don't know if I should expect something good or if I should expect it to turn to shit. Yeah. Either way, the aesthetic is so good that I'll keep watching it for now. But I'm not gonna get my hopes too high.
And if anyone's following the source material, let us know what you think. Let us know if it's worth, if something amazing happens. Yeah. That, also, yeah.
And how long has it been running, and how much of the anime will, how much of the manga will it actually cover?
Exactly. All right. So the next one is a brain-based show that I had no idea about.
Aoharu x Kikanjuu, or Aoharu x Machine Gun. This is a show, the main character is a girl who looks like a boy, and she's the student council president, has this very strong sense of justice. She gets roped up in, her next-door neighbor in this apartment she moves into works at a host club, and it turns out is obsessed with survival games.
Double okay.
Yeah. So
double okay.
So basically, the show is Uran High School Host Club, and Sabugebu had a kid, and it's this show. And so to a weird degree, because what happens is the girl who's dressed like a boy accidentally breaks a bunch of stuff in the host club and now owes a debt to the guy, and she's got to pay it off by joining his survival game team. The first episode of this seemed kind of okay, it's kind of cute, kind of funny. It could be a decent show. The second episode was completely lame. It was just really weak, overwrought drama, it was really melodramatic and not very cool, and it wasn't really well animated like the first episode was, so it was a drop for me.
So Brains Base loses their key property, and now they're in the dirt. That's sad.
It's just...
Key property meaning Durarara, by the way. That's what I'm talking about.
I want to know the story behind that, but I'm gonna ask them about it at Otakon, because they're the Durarara team, or at least some people from it, are gonna be there. So
all right. You're gonna ask them why did you leave?
Yeah, why did you leave? Because Brainspace, man, in the early days when they were new, they were kind of like Manglobe, where they had a lot of really high quality shows, and then it just kind of went out the window, and it's totally all over the place now, and you never know what to expect.
And these guys, within their first 10 shows, they had already made Baccano and Durarara, and Spice and Wolf.
Yeah.
Like, and so shows that are still classics
Kurenai,
to this
which
day.
I loved.
And Kurenai. So like you've got shows that are classics within the first 10 runs, and the only studio that I think has pulled that off since them is like, I don't know, close maybe Mappa.
Right.
Like,
well, Mappa hasn't made anything.
Mappa hasn't made like a real classic, but shows that stand out at least. Like,
well, anyway, I consider that show a drop. I think if you're into like if the concept sounds like something you'd probably enjoy, give it a watch.
From what I hear, if you think Ouran High School Host Club didn't have enough death or fighting,
well, there's no death. It's just survival games, like
maybe,
like airsoft gun games. Is what I mean.
Oh well, if it didn't have enough fake guns, then
it's definitely nowhere near the quality level of Ouran. But
yeah,
that's a
given, because not much in this subgenre of girl who looks like boy is forced to be in a male host club genre, if we can call it that.
All right, I don't think either of us is watching Aquarion Logos.
Aquarion is a shame of a mecha series, so I usually stay away from it.
Logos is a direct sequel to Evol, and I didn't watch Evol, so I'll be skipping that one.
Yeah. Are you watching Chaos Dragon? I usually
did you
Silverlink shows don't.
Did you try to watch Chaos Dragon?
Did you?
Oh man, I did. Let me tell you, man. This is the fastest so far this season that I realized the show was total garbage.
Oh,
and
wow.
It starts off, the first shot is like, it's like there's some kind of like building, like I guess it's like a castle structure, and like each of the characters is like sitting on a spot on it. But what happens, it's one of those 3D camera pans, right? Where like the camera's moving through a 3D environment. But it's moving through, and there's a bunch of 2D characters like standing on this 3D environment, and it just looks awful. And it's like introducing all the characters in this one continuous shot, and it was immediately like, oh no.
Wow. Like I feel like shows like who is Silverlink again? Like, I'm trying to remember.
Oh, I can't stand them.
Let me look them up. Let me just see. Oh, see through. Oh.
Yeah, they've done. Silverlink is a studio who continually does like shows that like look kind of decent, and I think it's mostly because director Shin Onuma, who was like the protege of Shinbo, like directs almost everything for this studio.
So he's trying to make it. He's trying to turn it into like
his Shaft.
He's trying to turn it into like bootleg Shaft.
It's a lot like a bootleg Shaft. Like Bakuto Test was very Shaft looking. Watamote is very Shaft looking, and I think, but the problem is like the strongest part of their shows is always the directing. It's never the writing. It's never like the animation.
They made Prisma Illya. That makes sense. That's gonna be the answer to Madoka Magica. Sure, definitely. that's definitely gonna be as memorable.
But yeah,
and
Chaos Dragon. And then right after that scene, it's just like scene after scene of like completely disconnected, jumbled nonsense that I didn't.
Oh wow! They also directed
far.
Strike the Blood. Strike the Blood was bad. Strike the Blood was very bad.
They haven't made anything I'd consider like great. I think Watamote was their best.
Watamote is the closest thing I'd call to a show that I like at least.
So next up is Charlotte by PA Works,
and that PA Works. PA Works. I used to think of them as like one of those fodder studios, like in the likes of Brainspace and maybe Silverlink.
Yeah,
but they've and I know I shouldn't think of them like that because I was one of those people who never really cared about Another, and I was also one of those people who didn't care about K9.
Another sucked.
I kind of liked Angel Beats, but it didn't grip me as much as everyone else.
Right.
I guess. And Glass Slip was the only real show I think was a classic, and which should be watched now until the end of time is Shirobako.
Yeah.
So far.
And I liked True Tears because I'm stupid.
So you were there from the beginning.
I liked True Tears. I loved Kanan. I loved Angel Beats. I still have never finished Hanasaku Iroha, but that show is gorgeously like made, like designed and produced. It's fucking beautiful. But I didn't make it through Another. I've heard Tari Tari is good too. Red Data Girl, I couldn't finish the first episode. That shit was
the thing
boring.
about these
and
guys
Glass
is
Slip is abysmal.
Yeah, from what I can tell is, if anything, they're trying to be a slice of life. They're trying to be like KyoAni.
You said the only one that you should go back and watch, but you probably haven't seen The Eccentric Family, have you?
Oh, okay.
Because
I haven't.
I still haven't watched it yet, but my friends have, and they all tell me it's like an absolute classic. It was the #1 show of 2013 for a lot of people.
Oh, okay.
So
I think I do remember. What's the Japanese title?
Oh fuck.
Because usually that's Uchoten Kazoku. Yeah, definitely. Like I've heard. Like that's the thing. Sometimes you'll remember a show by its Japanese title because that's how it's displayed everywhere and that's how it's said. But then like it'll get licensed and everyone will refer to it by its
English title. Yeah.
To the English title, and you have no idea what they're talking about.
Right.
Like that happened to me for a good half a year with Attack on Titan because I had followed the manga for like a couple months with its Japanese name, which was Shingeki no Kyojin, and also because Attack on Titan is a dumb translation of Shingeki no Kyojin. It should have been March of the Titans or something, or Attack of the Titans. Like it's anyway, yeah. But speaking of Charlotte, actually, Charlotte is looking to be like it's kind of like the X-Men, except everyone's power is fucked up.
Yeah, it's Moe X-Men in a way.
Yeah, Moe X-Men. Yeah,
I'll say of the show, because again, I do like PA Works. I think the shows are all gorgeous. I think this show's gorgeous. Probably one of the best looking shows of the season. Probably between Shirayukihime and Charlotte are probably the two like overall best looking.
Yeah.
But like, it's a Jun Maeda show, and I hate Clannad. I tried to rewatch Canon recently. I didn't make it very far. But I did like Little Busters, and I did like Angel Beats, and I think I like Jun Maeda's writing when it's weird, when it's like really out there, when he's like come up with some insane concept of why all these characters are like in some kind of weird fucked up situation, and Charlotte seems like it could go there. Did you watch episode 2?
I haven't seen
episode 2. Is kind of batshit. Like it's like basically the reason all these kids are in this school is that they will, if they're found out by the government, they will immediately be tested on and ruined. And the main girl's brother was tested on by scientists, and he's like since lost his mind. Like he's in like a mental facility, and he just fucking tears blankets to shreds as his way of quote unquote composing because of he was like a musician. But so it's like there's already madness, like people who have lost their mind and gone insane and are effectively like dead to society. This is already a thing that's in the show as of episode 2. And I know Jun Maeda. I know that this will continue to be it. The characters are gonna die, they're gonna lose their minds, they're gonna fucking flip shit, weird shit's gonna happen, someone's gonna turn out to be a ghost. Like,
and this is, and also this apparently is it's an original series.
Yeah, it's one of his original.
That's one of Jun Maeda's original series, and it's pretty interesting because I was trying to check if they had like a manga or something going before, and apparently Jun's been writing a yonkoma that's been going since May, which if this show has the dark overturn that you say it does, which I feel like it will. Yeah. Don't get me wrong, but like which I feel like it will. I feel like starting it off with a yonkoma is pretty funny.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of like if they started Ava with a yonkoma.
Well, it's like that's kind of like Jun Maeda's thing though. It's like his shows always have like a lot of death, but it's not presented in like a dark way. It's presented in like a characters die. Have you watched any of like the key adaptations or anything? Like
not yet, because the key adaptations have always been a weird thing for me because as I said earlier, I'm always really against shiny saccharine sappy stories.
Don't watch any of them. You won't like any of them.
And I feel like Key is literally that as a company.
It's the apex.
It's the apex of that as a company, and I've always been like, yeah, that's just not my thing. And everyone's like, but shit taste, you need to check them out. Like,
no, don't listen to those people. Well, what's exciting to me about Charlotte is that like, because I did like Angel Beats, but everyone knows that Angel Beats had a lot of problems with like pacing and just being weird. Like stuff was jumping around constantly, and it's because it was, Jun Maeda had already written light novels for it. And the anime series was supposedly planned like 5 cores that they had to cram into one.
What?
And
what? Wait, but that ended up being 13 episodes. Are you serious?
Yeah, it was like it was planned to be this really big series, but they could only make like 13 episodes out of it.
For the benefit of those who don't know what a core is basically one season of anime.
Right.
So like if you're talking, one core can easily be translated to either 12 to 13 episodes. Right. So if we're talking like 4 cores, that's usually something like
52.
It's usually something like the original Gundam series, right, which is like 40 to 50 episodes, or like 2 core, which is like two shows that happen, one show that happens over like 25 episodes. Right. I remember nowadays it's been really common to have split core productions, where like a show which doesn't necessarily change all that much over the the 2 cores, right, but it has like more or less its first season in one half and its second season on a completely other time, which is what they did to a show like Fates with the new Fate Stay Night or Fate Zero. Yes. Or even which they're doing now, which is gonna finish in October with what's it called again? Warren of Seraph, yeah. That's what they're doing.
Lesser known examples, classically, Cowboy Bebop and Samurai Champloo both had split cores.
Actually, the story behind Samurai Champloo, I know this is going to be like a tangent, but if you get me started on Samurai Champloo,
it moved to a later time slot. I know that.
It moved. The story behind it moved to a later time slot. So what happened was it started again on the other time slot on a different channel.
Right.
Because they
started back from the beginning.
They started back from the beginning, so they had to start, and they had to go all the way up to the Edo episode, which was the point where Mugen meets the pirates and everything. Right. So they started, and from there, that's when the show actually continued. Yeah. So Manglobe had actually had all the episodes done and were working on other series, but they hadn't released any of them because they hadn't actually had a network to release them. The story as to why they had to change, that's also kind of shrouded in mystery for some reason, because they never really explained it. But that's a really
that's neither here nor there. Charlotte is a good show. I like it so far. It's very well put together. I once again like Shirayukihime. I don't know if I should think that it's going to go in a good place or a bad place. Jun Maeda has done as many shows that I did enjoy as he has shows that I completely don't enjoy at all. So and this the concept of this show could go anywhere. It could be really stupid. It could be amazingly stupid. It could be great because of how stupid it is, but we don't.
It could turn into one of the darkest shows this year, from what Digi's trying to say.
It could turn into something that you watch because of how dumb it is.
Yeah.
So Classroom Crisis. Did you watch any of this one?
No. The thing is, it's from a fairly new studio, right? And I saw a trailer of it, but as you can see, it looks like it's a mecha show from.
It's
from
not. It's
Is it not?
No, it's not a mecha show. It does have planes, and it is futuristic. It takes place on Mars, but it's not a mecha show. It's actually, and this took me when I first tried to watch it, I only made it halfway through episode 1 and I stopped because it was so confusing. I couldn't tell where it was going, and I didn't get what it was about. And that's because it doesn't really reveal what it's about till the end of the first episode. But basically, it's about a classroom that's full of kids who are all working for this corporation, some kind of scientific corporation that is making these this jet thing, like a space plane or whatever, and all the students are part of this course. Well, they have to rescue this guy who's supposed to be a transfer student in the first episode who had been kidnapped, and they rescue him, and it turns out that he's their boss and he's there to downsize them. So the show is about this guy coming to this place to downsize this company of students. The way it's presented is really strange and hard to follow, and has a lot of exposition dumping. And I think I get I've seen a few people who said this is the show they're most excited about this season because it's got such a unique premise. Personally, I thought the premise sounded interesting on paper, but the way it was presented did not grip me at all. So I dropped it after episode 1. If it sounds interesting to you, maybe give it a shot. And it's got great character designs from the same designer as Ori no Himouto.
Which that's another thing I noticed. That's another thing. That's one of the things I noticed. Actually, the reason I thought it was a mecha show was because when I saw the trailer, it showed them in the pilot position, and it showed them in suits, and I was like, oh, mecha. It didn't show them. It didn't show what they were piloting.
Right. So it's just a plane thing.
Maybe that just shows I've been conditioned by anime to think if I see people in suits and they're piloting something, it's got to be a giant robot. Yeah.
It's a reasonable expectation.
Yeah. So are you watching the new Dragon Ball, or should I handle this one?
Okay, I watched episode 1, and
it was...
my impression was I'm gonna wait for the dub.
I'm gonna wait for the dub too, but the thing is, I started this because, and like if you watched my seasonal video, you'd know that I had a little like joke there about how Dragon Ball is like it's just like a show that you just watch and you don't even think about it anymore because there's just so many of them. Yeah. But I feel like this show knows that.
Yeah.
And it was kind of weird because there was a bunch of slice of life elements in Dragon Ball.
Yeah, well,
and I was just like,
Dragon Ball's always had slice of life stuff like in between arcs.
Yeah,
you know?
but to kick off this is the thing. I feel like this is why it's weird in the context that I understand it, because this is the first show, first TV anime that Dragon Ball has had since 1998.
Right. It's acting like it never left at all.
It's acting like it never left. It's acting...
If you watched this episode immediately after the end of the Buu saga, it would not feel like the show was on hiatus for 20 years.
Exactly. All that would feel like, oh, they got a really big animation pump. Right. All right, that's cool. But like,
think of it this way, though. Because Dragon Ball Super started literally in the same time slot the week after Kai finished. From that perspective, like, it really is just a sequel to Dragon Ball Kai, like, where it left off.
Well, I mean, and also, from what I've heard, the ratings aren't doing very well either because of the slow start. Like, people were, all the old fans were expecting it to have a bombastic opening, and it's, that's not it, and that's causing people to kind of feel not necessarily bitter about it, but like, what's the point in watching it?
I think it probably makes a lot less sense for anybody who wasn't watching Kai, right before Cho started, because
especially like someone like me, I haven't watched anything Dragon Ball related since I saw Battle of the Gods about 2 years ago, and I haven't consumed anything Dragon Ball related since about 6 months ago when I played Xenoverse. So like, Dragon Ball, it's tentatively fresh in your mind all the time because they won't ever let it die. But at the same time, I got into the mindset of, all right, we're starting off a new show, and it's like, oh, Vegeta's going to the theme park with his kids. It's like, what? Like,
I had heard all that, and that was what made me want to watch it. Just people saying like, oh yeah, it's like this weird slice of life opening. I was like, I gotta see this.
Like Dragon Ball slice of life. Like, wow.
And I thought like conceptually I enjoyed what was going on, but I can't watch this show in Japanese. It's too weird.
Because no one wants to hear, and I know I'm gonna offend people here, but no one wants to hear Goku sounding like an old transvestite. Like, what?
Well, it's
please.
Goku's voice actress is an 80-year-old woman as of next year, right?
Yeah.
And what I don't understand how this ever happened is that Goku was voiced by her in the original Dragon Ball, right?
And they never changed.
And it made sense because he was a kid, he sounded right, and then he grows up, right? And it would be one thing for Goku to maintain that voice as a grown-up, but the thing is, Gohan also is voiced by her. So they introduced a new kid for her to voice who's Goku's son, and that would make perfect sense if they had changed Goku's voice to be an adult and given his old voice to his son. That makes perfect sense. That would have been cool. But they both have the same voice, and then Goten also has that voice. So
you see
all
that
have the same voice.
I can only attribute that to either her being an extreme prima donna who's like, if you
I doubt that. It's gotta be
it's gotta be like a Toei kind of thing. Yeah, that's the only other thing I can think of.
It has to be that they thought they couldn't change it because it's the classic voice.
Yeah, it's like
it's
first
Goku,
of all is that we can't the idea is we can't change Goku's voice because that's she's Goku's voice. She's voiced him for 50 episodes, but we can't have Goku's kid not have a different voice because that's supposed to be like a little Goku. Right. So we'll give the same voice to her. Oh, he has another kid, same voice again.
It just seems senseless to me, and I know it's been going on for 30 years now. Yeah. But I've never watched Dragon Ball extensively in Japanese. Yeah. So for me it's just all right, whatever. I'll wait for the fucking dub. But I don't care that much.
when Funimation has a better vocal range of actors than you as a Japanese
you know it's a problem.
You know there's a problem. like I'm dead serious, and I don't even mean that as a knock to Funimation. I just mean that in general. Like, you've got shows like Legend of the Galactic Heroes, which has, no joke, hundreds of characters voiced by hundreds of different people.
Yeah.
Like, and it's you've got something like Dragon Ball Z or the Dragon Ball franchise, which has recycled voices out the wazoo. And
Toei's
that's
cheap.
Of course Toei's cheap. They're the Japanese. They're the Japanese evil Disney. I like to compartmentalize it like this. Like, Toei is the evil Disney, Ghibli is the creative Disney, and like what's it called? Mushi Production is like the classic Disney kind
that
of.
Somehow still exists.
That somehow still exists. Like,
all right, we can't talk about Dragon Ball all day.
Yeah. So moving on to
Durarara X210. We're not going to focus on this too much because it's not really a new show. It's the second part of season 2 of Durarara. I guess you could call it season 3 if you want to.
If you've seen any of Durarara and you liked it,
keep watching.
You're going to like this. It doesn't change in quality.
I'll say this: it hasn't changed in overall quality, but it has gotten way more confusing as time's gone on. Durarara was already fairly a clusterfuck, but it just keeps getting more cluster and more fuck as it goes.
At least it's been able to maintain its coherence, like, because after the second half of and I feel like it's a good idea to keep these split up into 12-episode cores, because when you keep them running, you run the risk of failing to actually give everything enough time.
Right.
So now that they're cutting all of these up into cores, it's made the series a lot, because if you had another 24-episode series to cover like the second half of the show, that would have just messed up the entire series.
Yeah, I can't imagine compressing any of this more than it already is.
Exactly.
But I'll say this: if you have trouble keeping up with what's going on, hold off till the end of the season. Watch it then. Because it's way easier to keep track of shit when you can just watch it.
Also, you can also watch it dubbed, which is because they're doing broadcast dubs with this.
Weird.
If you're into that sort of thing, Digi.
Let me clarify that when I said I was gonna watch Dragon Ball dubbed, that's like purely because I've seen so much of it as a kid that it's like nostalgic and I can appreciate the voices.
Digi hates everything that is English dubbed with a passion. He will not watch a single anime.
True. I was watching Yu Yu Hakusho dubbed yesterday, and I actually liked it.
That fits into the same level of
it's nostalgia.
90s camp and nostalgia. Like I like watching old anime dub because
I grew up with it.
You grew up with that kind of stuff. All right, so no one's watching
Fake
Prisma
Kaleid Liner, Prisma Illya, Zwei, Herz.
It's another season.
Yeah,
no one's
I didn't make it
that.
through the first season, so not sticking around.
It's just the Illya route of fate that she never deserved in the first place.
I'll say of Illya, I think that Prisma Illya has some of the best character designs of any of the adaptations of Type Moon stuff. Mm-hmm. I just wish they were in a different show.
Well, I mean, it is your kind of character design. And speaking of character design, Gakkou Gurashi, which is your favorite design show of the season so far.
Yeah, Gakkou Gurashi. When they showed what the character designs were going to look like, my first impression was, if they look like that in the show, I will watch this show no matter what. And they actually do look like that in the show. I don't know how to explain exactly, but
I haven't seen the show, but the explanation that you gave for me, the explanation that you gave it to me made me want to watch it.
Let me say right now, before we explain this, if you haven't seen Gakkou Gurashi, and you like watching things that you haven't been spoiled for, go watch episode 1 right now without reading any plot synopsis of it, because I don't want to spoil it. But if you've already seen it or you don't care, Gakkou Gurashi, the plot is that the main character girl, who's the pink-haired girl, she thinks that she's living a normal high school life, but her and her friends have a club where they live inside of the high school. They never leave. Mm-hmm. They always stay inside the school. And she thinks that she's living this super fun, happy high school life. And the whole first episode is just a fun time, cute girls doing cute things comedy, right? Until the last minute, where it's revealed that this is all a delusion in her head, because it's actually a zombie apocalypse, and her and her club are the only people still alive, and that's why they're staying inside the school. Everyone else in the club knows that like, they don't see what she sees. They just see the zombie apocalypse that they're living in, and they've kind of like learned to deal with it and to deal with her. But she sees all these other students. She sees this whole school life that she's living that's not real.
You remember back in the first like live stream we did, and you were like, the whole "it can't be helped" mindset.
Yeah.
This show feels like that. This show is like that, but with cute girls. Like, we said this. Like, the world will be ending, and Japan will just be like,
it can't be helped.
It can't be helped. And I feel like this is the exact, like, this is that idea put into practice.
Right.
Like, I feel like because this is, I read the manga, and I read like the synopsis. It was such a strange thing to look at.
Yeah.
Cause like, it felt like Lucky Star almost.
Right. It's just like a cutesy anime that happens to have an incredibly dark undercurrent.
And I love it.
Yeah.
Cause cute girls going through suffering is what makes me get solid.
Right. And this manga has I knew about it for a long time because of it's been popular on A for quite a while.
I mean, yeah, those guys love weird shit.
Exactly.
Like this.
And it's it is like it's got a lot of suffering. Like, if you're expecting the zombie thing to just be a gag, it will not just be a gag. All of them have been through a lot of, like, harsh emotional shit, and they've all got, like, deep, horrible backstories, so it's gonna be...
Yeah. I mean, even the main girl, isn't this all, like, a form of, like, denial or something for her?
I guess so. I haven't actually read the manga myself. I've heard, spoilers here and there from looking at it. I don't want to spoil myself too much because I want to watch and enjoy the anime. And I have heard that the anime, the first episode changed some things and added some things in, like, partly just to stretch out how long it would take for the reveal, but also, like, they mixed in some stuff from later chapters, so I don't know how direct an adaptation it'll be, but I do know that it looks really good. Like, the animation looked good, the character designs look great, the atmosphere looks great, and I really like the like really super tiny skinny girls look, I guess. It's sort of like it looks a lot like Is the Order a Rabbit or Gatchaman wa Usagi desu ka from last year, which I also loved for the character designs mostly, or like Higurashi or something like that. The designs of Sakai Kyuta, who did...
So would you say this is like your favorite show this season?
No, only one episode is out, and I don't... All I really thought about it was, wow, it's pretty,
yeah, true.
And fun. I hope it'll be great. My favorite show this season is the same as yours, which is the next one we're going to talk about.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Gangsta. Okay, so like since Digi's been like having like the lead for most of the shows, I think I'll take lead of this one. Like, I actually have been a fan of this. Like, way back in 2011 when I first moved to America, I went to Barnes & Noble. And they had a bunch... Like, I just, was walking through Barnes & Noble because my dad would drag me to the bookstore. And they had... this manga.
Gangsta, really? I thought it was new.
It was either when I first moved or the year after I moved, because I went to Barnes & Noble and they had the manga there, and I picked it up, and I was like, because when I was younger, like when I was still in high school, if anything had a katana in it, I would watch it like immediately, like, so I picked it up and I read it cover to cover multiple times, and it's to this day one of my favorite manga. Like,
I'm looking at Wikipedia, and it's saying that the manga started coming out in the U.S. in 2014.
2014?
Yeah.
It was either that or like I picked it up more recently than that. Then, because I do remember picking it up in Barnes & Noble and start reading it there. Like, but then oh wait, no, it wasn't even that. I remember now. Fuck, I'm an idiot. I found it on Manga Reader. That's how.
You're confusing it with an entirely different series.
Yeah, I found it on manga. I found it on Manga Reader, and then I found it on Manga Reader, and I read it, online through that. And like I read through it, and it was, it was freaking great because it had gags in the art that would tell the story without dialogue, and I feel like they tried to carry some of that into the into the TV show, which they do really well, and also the whole idea of a deaf guy being the main badass was kind of awesome to me.
He's perfect as a character.
Yeah, so basically, Gangsta, as I put so aptly earlier, is more or less like The Godfather meets your basic like beat 'em up anime or like superhero show.
Right.
More or less, and they haven't really. Thing is, they've taken too long to explain what tags are.
Right.
And more or less,
You can,
the
you can
idea
figure
is
it out. They're strong.
yeah, like they're strong. But the main idea is it's not really much of a spoiler because it becomes like the main focal point of the entire series. Like in from what I've seen today, in like 2 or 3 episodes, in World War II or was it World War One, a bunch of soldiers took a bunch of like super soldier drugs, and their kids are what are now known as dog tags or tags, and those kids now have supernatural abilities, and they are forced to walk the earth branded wearing dog tags, so that people know that they shouldn't be fucked with.
When does this show take place?
When this show takes place in more or less modern times.
So how old is the deaf guy?
How old? They're kids, they're descended.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, not direct kids, but like they're descended from people who took the drugs.
All right, that makes sense.
So, like, because Nick's mother was just like some Asian woman who got passed around by a head of a mercenary guild. But you'll learn that in I can guess like 4 or 5 episodes. But basically, the entire series it follows the drama of the handyman, Nick and Warwick Arcangelo, who in the new episode you can pretty much tell was a form. Yeah, he's a gigolo, but he used to be the son of a rich family, and he was abused heavily, and stuff happened. I'm not gonna really get into spoiling all of that, but stuff happened, and he ended up with Nick, and now they're working in this Mediterranean-like city, which is gorgeously designed, by the way.
It looks awesome.
And because in the manga, if anything, the manga has good art.
Right.
Like I definitely think so. It's a very well drawn manga. But what I would say is the backgrounds and setting felt like what it was trying to be. It was serviceable.
Right.
It was a city, but the aesthetic they've given to the city in this show, which is one of the little things and we'll keep saying this with the show because it's the little things that make the show work.
Right.
Like
it's the tone and the directing, and
it's the tone and the directing.
It feels like before they started animating this, they figured out where everything in this city was. They were like, here's where their office is. Here's where the doctor's place is. Here's where the woman who sells the cigarettes. Here's where all of them are in relation to one another, and they sort of mapped out the city and made it real. Do
you want to know something crazy about that? The Manglobe didn't do that. Kosuke did. Because if you read the hard the paperbacks of the manga volumes, at the end of each volume there's either a map or a layout of where everything is in the city. So I think in volume 2 there's a map of the entirety of Agasalam, where everything is, and I feel like what Manglobe did was, instead of most other anime studios who would just be like, oh, there's a map out, doesn't matter, we don't really need that, no one's gonna care. They actually, I bet they actually looked at those, used them as guidelines as to how to direct everything, the distance where everything is, and how everything worked, and that's basically how they're making the series work the way it is.
And it feels great.
It feels great.
It'll definitely remind people of Black Lagoon. Because it's very much like Rowana Pure. It's a city where everyone's fucked up. Everyone's got a dark, tragic, crazy backstory. Everyone's fucked up, but they're all just kind of dealing with it with a smile. Black Lagoon was a lot more of a in-your-face action series, and Gangsta is a lot more contemplative. It's
because it's these guys. Yes, they are ruthless. They're ruthless killers, but they still do odd jobs.
Yeah.
They're called the handymen for a reason. They get sent on odd jobs. They go around delivering things. They go ask people for information. And Warwick gets paid to bang beautiful women.
Yeah.
So
I gotta say, for me, what sets the show apart is, and I'm excited about it because it's a Manglobe show directed by what's his name, the guy who did Ergo Proxy and Witch Hunter Robin, and Manglobe, in the beginning, when they first started doing shows, all their shows, whether they were good or bad, were interesting, exciting, and different, And then they started having to do adaptations of generic stuff to pay the bills. And then the last couple of years, they're sort of coming back. They did Samurai Flamenco, which was crazy and different. Now they're doing Gangsta, and it's like, it's an adaptation, but it feels like a Manglobe show. Like, it feels like a successor to Samurai Champloo and Michikoto Hatchin and and Ergo
because
Proxy.
because in that sense, because I feel like this is a match made in heaven, especially based on the writer. Kosuke is actually a female who wrote this entire series, and she has been on record saying that she doesn't necessarily dislike anime, but she wasn't a fan before she started drawing manga. Like, she's more of a fan of, like, the kind of stuff that you can imagine is inspiring gangster, like Western crime movies. And the kinds of anime she's been on record as liking is stuff that your more like elitist fan would be a fan of, like
shows.
not just Manglobe shows. She's been on record as liking stuff like Fate Zero or Madoka Magica, those kinds of shows, like. And also Samurai Champloo and whatnot, Manglobe shows. So she's got the spirit of someone who could work out with Manglobe.
And I think they definitely they were careful to choose like a director who'd be right for this project. They wanted it to be good. And even though like it clearly doesn't have the highest budget, if you will, it's not like beautifully animated, but it looks good because the staging is great and the storyboard is great.
Yeah, that's the problem with this show. The only problem I have, like, some of the drawings are rushed because, it's Manglobe and they've always been tight for cash and tight for time, because that's something, like, it's something they've always had an issue with, and it showed in shows like Samurai Flamenco, and it showed in shows like Michikoto Hatchin a lot, but they're trying to pull through with this one and they're doing pretty well. And I feel like this is one of the highlights of the season, in my opinion.
I'm just glad they're not trying to rush through it,
Yeah.
It's kept this, like, very methodical pace. It's like they only have probably 12 episodes to work with, but they're not trying to be like, we're going to cram the entire plot in 12 episodes. They're like,
because it's got what?
Justice,
I think right now it's got about 35 chapters. Like, that's where I remember it being last time I checked online. It's got about 35 chapters, 4 volumes in. And the thing about it, the reason I think they're doing well with this show is because Gangsta's chapters are very well thought out, if you understand what I mean. Like, it's not the kind of manga where the writer just wrote everything and drew everything and knew he had to stop at some point and then decided to continue the next. Right. Every chapter, and I'm sure you can see this with every episode, it has a point.
Yeah, it's always been like a complete story in each episode.
Yeah, it's had like a piece. Like, the first episode was introducing the characters and introducing the setting. Second episode was what exactly do they do and who exactly is Nick.
Yeah.
Third episode is what's Alex gonna be doing living with these guys. Fourth episode is most likely gonna move on to the intrigue of something else that I'm not gonna spoil. Yeah. But so yeah, in general, the series is looking, and even as someone who's read the manga multiple times, like, I've actually read this from beginning to end more than once to the current run because I actually really like this story. Like, I think it's it's still fresh and interesting. The fact that someone who's already experienced the story already in its written form finds something to enjoy in its anime form is, that speaks volumes of the production that Manglobe is doing on this show.
Yeah. All right, we got to move on. We're talking too much about this.
Next one is Gatchaman Crowds.
Yeah, I still haven't finished the first season yet, but I do like it. I'll get to it when I get to it.
Like, just a weird thing on Tatsunoko, at least. Like, I like Tatsunoko kind of, but I also think they're pretty interesting just to talk about what, like, Tatsunoko is the kind of studio that you look at and it's like the struggle of a really old studio to stay relevant, like, because if you look at what they've been doing in the past,
I don't really want to dwell on that one too much, just because we're not going to talk about the show. But we'll talk about Tatsunoko at a different date.
Definitely.
Let's move on to Gate. I dropped it before I finished the first episode.
You dropped it. Well, from what the episode I saw, I liked it. I like it, but it's not because of A1.
No,
like A1's
what I've
A1's
been hearing
influence is not,
but from people, because this has been a light novel series. It's over 10 years old. It's also a manga series, and with like I'd heard that it was kind of popular, but then when the first episode came out, the first thing I heard was like, oh, the manga was way better. Like the anime's fucking it up. So maybe it's a decent story with some intrigue, but the anime adaptation, because everything that bothered me about it had nothing to do with the plot. It was just the way it was paced and like structured. It was just like super duper boring. Like it felt like every shot lasted too long. I could never really tell what was going on. It was just awkward and just almost nonsensical the way it was like shot. Like it would just be random disconnected scenes of like this invasion happening and people dying and stuff, and then the main character is just there somewhere doing something, and I hate A1 Pictures. I hate this show.
I understand that, and I do kind of agree. But the reason I like the series is because, like, people probably don't necessarily know this. I am kind of from a military family,
right.
And I kind of have, like, not deep ties, but I have friends who are currently serving. I have family members who are currently serving, and I'm a nerd when it comes to, like, military hardware and stuff. And just, like, the subtleties that they decided to adhere to, especially when it came to the JSDF's, like, particular arsenal and whatnot. You could tell the original writer is he's either, you know, a former serviceman or just a really big nerd. Right. Like, so, like the
Probably
fact that they use, it's a really, most likely a really big nerd. But, like, you could tell, like, the way the way they did formations, even the lines they actually use, like, and aside, you know, on the story itself, I feel like it's the whole concept of fantasy versus reality is a novel idea, but from what I could tell from the first episode is that it's being toned down in terms of how, in terms of not necessarily just the violence, but like the tone.
Right.
Like the tone was, the tone is a lot more bright and saccharine on the side of the fantasy side to make it even more jarring when they meet the realism. But they're trying to kind of mix them now.
Yeah.
They're trying to kind of give the fantasy kingdom, like, I can't even remember their freaking names. They're trying to give the kingdom like some kind of like inner conflict and struggle that you've seen in every fantasy anime ever. Yeah. Like you know exactly what I'm talking about. Like, oh, this one evil kingdom is being the asshole to all of these other kingdoms, and
Well, but it might be interesting. I recommend reading the manga and then seeing if it compares, you know, like, just because I've been hearing it, like, a lot that the manga's better.
Yeah. Okay, next one.
All right, I'm going to go ahead. I don't know how you feel about this, but I'm going to go ahead and call this my biggest disappointment of the season is God Eater.
Really?
Because I thought the first episode was completely boring.
Well, it was, but I liked it. Okay, let me put it this way. It was something... It was something that you could only appreciate, in my opinion, as someone who's clocked 200 hours into Godzilla 1 on PSP.
Well, that would definitely help.
Yeah, it was something that someone like me.
There's a whole genre that's not very well known it's a mini genre of anime adaptations of video games that have giant weapons. Yeah. And they always start off the same way. I've seen like 3 or 4 shows like this. The only one that really whose title I can remember was Night Wizard from like 2008. And these are shows that no one ever remembers. But like, it starts off in media res. There's a giant battle happening, and everyone has enormous weapons. And you don't really see them like fight per se, so much as just fire giant weapons into a crowd and make everything die. You know, and I've seen a few shows like this. God Eater is definitely the prettiest one, but they're always good looking. That's the weird thing. They never have a script to speak of, but they're always good looking because I guess something to do with being a game adaptation. But and God Eater's aesthetic is really cool, totally unique, not something I've ever seen before.
If you follow me on Twitter, you'll have heard what I'm about to say. God Eater, in terms of tone and story, is more or less just Attack on Titan by way of Tetsuya Nomura.
And I think that's what's going to happen to this show is that it will get a little bit successful because of the fact that it's got, it's gorgeous, it's got action and stuff like that. But I think that unfavorable comparisons to Attack on Titan will keep it from ever becoming big.
Yeah, and I think, but the thing is, like, already I like it more than Attack on Titan, but for not because it's cool to hate Attack on Titan, but because like it's being its own show, even though it's kind of like very faithful to the manga, kind of like almost saying manga to the game. Like, as someone who's played the game, I know what the Aragami are.
Right.
I know what the God Arcs are. I know why they need those bracelets. I know what's happening. Yeah. Like I have that prior knowledge.
It makes a lot more
sense.
If
you play the game, it makes a lot more sense. But what I don't know exactly is who this Renka dude is, and I don't think I want to because he's boring.
Right.
Like because he's typical. He's like if you
boiled down like anime protagonist to a science
to,
and like put it in like a test tube, you'd get this guy.
What I really hope they did was focus on like it was basically just like play the story, because the story of Gojita is actually pretty good. Like it's not great. It's not like it's not a masterpiece, but it's a fun story. It worked for the game, and it would work as an anime if you just played it without the main character. Like if you centered it on if you centered it on Lindo and his unit, killing Aragami, it would have been a great show. And I feel like it's going to do that, but it's going to have this dude weighing it down a little bit.
Well, the reason it's disappointing for me is just because I'm a very long time UFO Table fan. The first show by them that I got really into was Manabi Straight. Back in 2007. And all their shows up until then had been these like really colorful, weird, like just totally obscure, bizarre shows. I think probably.
And he's about to say something that's gonna make most current UFO Table fans unhappy.
Well, okay. Because I love Kara no Kyokai. I love those films, right? And when those came out, it was such like a totally different direction for them. Like completely the opposite of their style, which had always been, sort of cutesy and bubbly. And then they do this like really dark, gritty thing. But they did it like with like beautiful colors and everything, like especially the first film, like everything's like green and red and like sort of trippy looking, and it's this dark urban fantasy, and I am a huge fan of dark urban fantasy shows, so for me it was like right up my alley. Kara no Kyokai was like perfect for me. But then it sort of became like, okay, well now they're doing Fate Zero and Unlimited Blade Works, and they're all kind of in this like more realistic, more detailed, normal, everyday backgrounds. And those shows didn't have as much of the trippiness that Kara no Kyokai did, where like the city would be painted in like these bold colors and stuff like that. They're more just normal looking.
But I will argue that Gojita starts to bring a bit of that trippiness back, especially with the glitch cuts. The glitch cuts,
it brings back the feeling of experimentation for sure. Like this is a totally new style I've never seen before, and I do like the aesthetic of it, but like the idea of taking that aesthetic and then just applying it to like some game adaptation that's just there, like with no script to speak of, and it's like
it feels like sacrilege.
Right, it's like what happened to an UFO Table whose shows were all like something I would never get somewhere else. The animation is something I can't get anywhere else, but plot wise, this is a dime a dozen.
Yeah, and also they're going to the thing about this is, because I actually do follow the Gojita series. Funny enough, this is not the first time they've used this aesthetic. Yeah. If you actually go back and watch the Gojita 2 Burst opening, they
UFO Table made it.
UFO Table made that opening.
I wouldn't say it's the same aesthetic, because it's come a long way in the last.
It's come a long way from that one, because from the last like 2 years or so, they made the Gojita Burst opening for the first one, but the second game's opening looks very much like this one, and it uses the same. I feel like it's the same director, because it uses the same like glitch cuts, like the whole Twitch effect where it goes slow and then really fast and then slow and then really like those kinds of cuts. So aesthetically they're not necessarily recycling, but they're trying to expand on a new idea they have. And I feel like this is an experiment for, like, they had the Manabi straight, the ninja nonsense kind of style. Then they moved on a little bit to the Fate Zero, Kara no Kyokai kind of style. And now I feel like this is more or less opening the new chapter on a new aesthetic that they're looking for.
All right, wrapping that up. If you haven't seen Futakoi Alternative, Manabi Straight, and Dokoi, to go watch them. Next up, Himouto Umaru-chan. Did you watch any of this?
No. Have you?
Yeah, I watched the first 2 episodes.
I keep seeing. Okay, we both Digi and I browse this little known site called 4chan, and I keep seeing this show be getting plastered.
That's because it's a total. All right, if you are a fan of like Yudu Yuri or Squid Girl, like that kind of show, watch this one. It's a dumb girl doing dumb things show. I watched the first 2 episodes. I didn't find it that funny. It's kind of slowly, like, the punchlines come too slow, kind of. And the main character girl is just hateable. Because, like, she's perfect in her everyday life. Everyone thinks she's beautiful and amazing. And then when she's at home, she's this bratty otaku who constantly forces her older brother to do stuff for her.
Oh, so it's like it's what's the show called? It's like Oreimo.
It's a bit like Oreimo, but it's just a comedy. It's not like a weird rom-com thing. It's just like a straight up gag show.
Oh, so there's no allusions to dicking his sister.
No, not at all. The brother's actually much older in this one. Like he's like a salaryman, I guess, and she's living in his apartment, but she's in high school and she's just a brat. And so like all the time I'm just like, God, she's such a brat. I can't stand it. But this is perfect show for my baby brother. He loves this kind of shit. Like anything that's just dumb girls doing dumb stuff. That's his kind of show. So if you're into that kind of thing, watch this one. Next up, Jitsu wa Watashi wa.
I haven't seen this. This is not my kind of thing.
So Jitsu wa Watashi wa feels like a 2003 rom-com that was displaced in time. It's like a I guess it's like a harem comedy, but it doesn't really play up fan service at all. It's so
we're talking like Love Hina kind of thing.
Well, Love Hina had a lot of fan service.
Well, yeah.
We're talking more like oh God, what's a good example? I mean, that's like the right era, but like it's really not fan servicey at all. It's more of just like a straight up romantic comedy with emphasis on the comedy and not really on the like. So
we're talking more Fumofu?
Well, no. Fumofu had, like, no plot. Jitsu wa Watashi wa is like the main character falls in love with this girl in his class, and then he finds out that she's a vampire, and she's trying to keep it a secret. The main character's thing is that all of his emotions are always present on his face. Everyone can always tell what he's thinking all the time. So, but the girl is incredibly dense, so she doesn't realize that he likes her. But he's trying to keep her secret that she's a vampire. And then there's the student council president who turns out it's an alien, so it's like that kind of thing, All the girls who like him are weird extraterrestrial beings or something.
So it's like the harem version of Haruhi.
Yeah, a little bit. But it's sort of cute. It's sort of funny. It's I would compare it to last season's Yamada-kun and the Seven Witches. Like it's like the sort of surprisingly good, but not so surprisingly good that you're like, oh, everyone needs to watch this. People who read the manga have been on talking about how the manga is better and everyone needs to read the manga.
I mean, those people are always there.
The weird thing about this show is that it has this like weird, ugly, cute style to it. Like the character designs are ugly, but in a cute way. I don't know how to explain it. I think the only reason I'm watching the show is because the characters have the kind of eyes that I like, which is like that look like they're mad, like madness as in insanity. Like everyone has insane eyes, and I love that in anime. So I think that's like half of why I'm still watching it. But I don't know, if you like rom-coms, maybe check it out. Joukamichi no Dandelion. Have you watched any of that one?
No.
This one has the weirdest concept of the season. This is a show about the royal family of Japan. Apparently, they're ruled by a king in this story, right? The king has 9 kids. All of them have special powers, and they're all in a competition to see who's going to be the next king. This is being determined by vote by the populace because there's surveillance cameras everywhere in town, like watching them. And so however they act will influence the way people respond to them. Now, mind you, of these 9 kids, 4 of them are in high school somehow. I don't know how that's fucking possible unless 2 of them are twins. They haven't explained. 3 are in middle school, and I guess the rest are elementary, and there's like 1 baby. So it's 9 siblings. They all have superpowers. The main girl, who's voiced by Hanakana, of course, can fly, and she's super shy. She can't stand all the attention that she gets, so she's trying to hide behind her siblings. They've all got crazy powers. Like, one girl can materialize any object, but the cost of that object comes out of her bank account. One character can just make anything grow, like trees or plants or anything can just grow. Like, it's all weird powers. It's sort of just like a goofy comedy show. So far, I like it enough that I'm watching it. I've seen the first 2 episodes, and it's enjoyable, but it's also like, I think I'm mostly watching it because the premise is so out there that I need to see what's going to happen, you know? Like, where are they going with this? This is madness. But I'll also say that it's very similar in tone to Kyoran Kazoku Nikki, but not nearly as good. So if you like this show, go watch Kyoran Kazoku Nikki. That was better, from like 8 years ago. I don't think either of us is watching Junjou Romantica 3.
I mean, it's number one. It's like, first of all, before we move on to the next one, let's just look at the demarcations of the show. It's a drama, which discounts me. It's a romance, which discounts me again, and it's a shonen ai, which I'm sure discounts the both of us.
I'm not opposed to shonen ai, but
neither am I.
Junjou Romantica has been going for a long time, and it's on season 3. And it looks like it's got. I don't care.
It looks like it's got those shoujo hands thing going. Yeah, like it's it's no thank you.
So anyway, next up, Prison School,
which is actually like one of my surprise favorites.
Yeah, I wasn't sure because I've heard this manga is very popular on A.
This manga is popular.
I had no idea.
This manga is actually.
The only place I go is A.
Oh yeah, I mean yeah, but this manga is actually very. But even amongst my friends who aren't even like internet people, but they're manga people. Like I know people who are just really into this show. Well, like even a bunch of my old friends from like the shonen side of the community.
I didn't know like what kind of story it is. Like I got that it was kind of like a comedy, but I didn't really understand what type of show it was. But because the manga is really realistically drawn, like that's what's weird about it. It's like it's a high school like fan service comedy, but really realistic looking for some reason.
I feel like the main pull of this show is how the art in the manga has no business being as good as it is, because the premise is so laughable and smutty.
It's really just any fan service, not that it's a bad one, because there's a lot of good fan service comedy that I don't think get enough credit. But this one is like it just looks amazing. So
and I feel like people always, the kinds of people who say, oh, you only care about how a show looks and you don't think about the story or anything. I feel like those kinds of people are the reason why shows like this need to be like lauded. Because this show, if it didn't look the way it did, nobody would care.
Right.
Like,
yeah, if this looked like a moe show, then it had the exact same premise.
Like let me put it this way: if this show came out the same way it did, but looked exactly like, say, I don't know, it looked exactly like Sword Art Online, or like if it was made by A1 Pictures, nobody would really care about this show. But everything about it comes from how, number one, how uniquely the characters are designed and how they play some of the visual gags so straight. Because there's this fat dude whose face is so small, and it's no.
You laugh every time you see it.
Yeah, you laugh every single time you see his face because you're like, why? First of all, why? And they take it's like they never ever break they never break the fourth wall and ask, why is your face so fucking
his
small?
His face is just really tiny.
It's so tiny, and they always play it straight. And there's this other girl she's a student in a school which is really chastity focused, but first of all, her skirt is the tightest thing ever, and she's got these quadruple D's hanging out of this extremely open busted shirt, and she's supposed to be a student in a school, and like they also never like cast a sight to that, and the whole premise that you've got a school in Japan where students are forced to do manual labor. It's just I feel like the mixture of batshit insane bullshit that happens in the series, plus the juxtaposition to realistically designed characters, just leads to it being like just a great
seeing
series. Like
one character who's got a completely real face standing next to the tiny faced fat guy, and you're just,
exactly,
and
you're just
creates
like
this mental disconnect. That everything in the show is automatically hilarious. I will say, as for the animation in the show, I don't really like how they tried to capture the look of the manga by giving everyone like weird muddy looking faces.
They gave it this weird Gaussian blur to every single character, and it
doesn't look right a lot of the time.
I won't say, like, I've always said, I think post-processing in anime is the future of how anime should be designed. And, you know, Ufotable's been really good at this. Gohan's has been really good at this. A1 Pictures does this kind of to give their shows, like, this really sunshine aesthetic.
I feel like they just take one filter and put it on all their shows.
Like, the one filter and, like, do a sunshine aesthetic. But I feel like, in general, I really like, you know, post-processing animation. And I like how that looks. And I really do think Prison School is the step in the right direction done weirdly wrong.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, there's scenes that look great. But there's also
some of
the faces are just like, why sometimes.
The reason they did that weird blur is to get the same level of shading fidelity as the manga without actually having to shade anything. Yeah. And I feel like it's a cost cut to prison. But I genuinely think my favorite part of the first episode was, and it was a really subtle part, like when the girl asks him, like when Chio asks him to go to the sumo thing with her, and the camera, it doesn't do anything, and you talked to me about this director before and how he has these really good comedic cuts, but the camera just cuts to a really well designed like face that the character does, and I posted this on Twitter a couple times. Like it's the best face in the entire series, like in the entire episode. I mean, and it's like the cut was so well done because it's silent. Like there's no the visual gag is so done. If I had to describe
a specialty of director Tsutomu Mizushima, it is comedic cuts.
Yeah, and he does a really good job, and I think that's what's gonna make the show great. Yeah. That's what's gonna make the show like a really memorable show.
Next up, Kusen Madoshi Kyohosei no Kyokan.
I made a silent pact to myself never to watch anything made by Damadea ever again.
I made it 30 seconds into this show. I literally started the episode and I went, oh.
You know how B Train is like your least favorite like studio ever. That Damadea. They haven't made.
I've enjoyed.
Like,
wait, let me look at their list real quick. Make sure I'm not confused.
They've made one show I liked. One.
Which one was that?
And that's Squid Girl.
But they did Kodomo no Jikan. Don't you like that?
No, not really.
Yeah, Squid Girl was Astaroth no Omocha was alright. They really haven't done anything special. Wow.
Yeah. And they did Campione, which was wonderful.
Well, anyways, Monster Musume no Iru Nichijo. Have you watched any of this one yet?
I saw like a bit of the first episode. I've also read the manga, so I can talk about it. The reason I don't really care about this show is because it's a show centered around a fetish I don't have. Yeah. And let's face it, the show is centered around the fetish.
That's all it is. And for me, with Mon Musu, I don't think I'm gonna watch this the whole way through because not so much that I don't have the monster girl fetish, but more that like most of the girls have like crazy gigantic tits that are just too much for me. And B, because it's actually not that good as a fan service show. Like it's got some moments, like some scenes that are really fan servicey, but then it it's censored compared to the manga, because the manga had straight tits in it, and this one
also another thing is censorship in anime has gotten really out of hand this season.
Well, that's the funny thing about Monmusu is none of it's censored by like TV stations censored. It's just they just didn't put nipples in it, so like it actually gets away with a lot more than most shows are getting away with. But it did that by hamstringing how overall raunchy it is. But even the manga, I don't think it's that like the fan service doesn't work that well compared to other good fan service stuff. Like there's other shows that do this kind of thing really well. I'm trying to
I feel like it's gonna get the otaku audience behind it, because it's already
it's good looking.
Series.
I'll give it that, because that's why I kept watching. I was like, because if a fan service show looks nice, I'll watch it, and it looks nice, but I don't think it's that good as a fan service show, and the script is just nonsense. It's the same as I guess the easiest example is To Love Ru. Anyone who's seen To Love Ru, every show that's like that is basically the same. It's just every episode is either they introduce some new girl or they introduce some dumb situation for the girls to react to, and that's all it is, But what's cool about Monmusu and what got my attention about it is that it's such a long time coming, because I read the My Life with the Monster Girl shorts that came out 7-8 years ago, where it was these short 1-page comics about this guy who would, each monster girl would have some kind of thing about them that's like their everyday life, like My Life with the Harpy, and the harpy lays eggs, and it's some kind of factoid, but it's also sexual, because they would all end in him having sex with the monster girl, right? And they were just these cute short little comics, and then they became so popular, and then Monster Girls became this whole meme thing, this culture surrounding them, and then the Monmusu manga happened, and people loved that, and now it's an anime. So I have all that context going into it, but that doesn't make it a good show. It just means that it's oh hey, Monmusu's an anime now.
And
cool.
To be honest, it's one of those things where how has it not been one so far? It's one of those things when I first checked this season list, and I was like, Monster Musume is getting an anime. I was like, it's just getting an anime now.
Yeah.
Hasn't it already had one? Why hasn't it had one already? Isn't this show loved by weirdos the world over? But I mean, I don't like it.
I think
if
you're into the Monster Girls, and particularly if you're into the designs in this show, you'll like this show.
If you've ever wanted to fuck a spider, watch this show.
All right, Non Biyori Repeat. I
don't
didn't
watch
finish the first season.
Yeah.
Overlord.
I dropped this after the first episode, and you know why. I told you why. This show, if the first show on this list that we talked about is an example of good choreography, Overlord is how to fuck up choreography. Is how to fuck up choreography so bad.
Yeah.
And not only that, but the premise of the series is really the premise of the series. It annoyed me, to be honest.
So because the plot of this show is that a guy, it's the last day of the servers for this MMO game. The main character guy has been role playing as this dark evil overlord wizard, and he had this guild that were, I guess, somewhat famous, but all the guild mates are gone. It's the last day of the servers. He's the last one online, and he gets teleported into the world of the game. But in because there's so many of these shows now, I feel like I have to give extra clarity. So in this case, he's the only player who's there. There's one or two other players who've been there in the past, but he's the only player who's there right now. So it's not the whole player base getting teleported in. And it's one of the cases where the world is now real, it's now all the lore is now relevant,
That's actually where I came to the point where I really didn't like the show, because first of all,
because it makes it why make it a game?
It's one of those, why make it a game? And the thing is, I know why, because the only thing they're doing with the fact that this is a real dude is they're gonna have funny inner dialogue,
right?
Then why not just have it be a dude? Why give it the game backstory?
My friend Cider, who's the co-host of the Pub Crawl, he, after watching the first episode, he went and read 10 volumes of the light novel, because apparently it's been translated a lot. He told me that it becomes sort of a fantasy political thing, sort of a no game no life type thing. But he said that the guy has a vault that's full of items that basically change the rules of the game. because he has like admin powers. So basically, he said most of the conflicts resolve with him just like pulling some game-breaking power out of his ass, and like Deus Ex Machina, the whole situation's solved. Like,
are you serious? So that just makes the show okay. So the only way that they can factor in the fact that it's a game is to make the show even worse.
Right. And I made it, I watched the first episode and I thought, okay, I guess it could work. And then I watched the first half of episode 2 and I was like, I can't. Because the whole thing is just all of his subjects just sucking his dick. Just the whole time, talking about how cool he is and amazing he is. And
it's like, first of all, I can't even get behind this because I've never played a lich in an MMO before.
Right.
I never played. Yeah, I never played. Like, even if it was that whole. Oh, I can understand Sword Art Online because there's a lot of people who play the swordsman character. Right. Or like, there's a lot. Even Log Horizon to a degree. There's a lot of people who play the mage character.
I think Overlord is like the main character guy is the worst possible version of Shiroi from Log Horizon. Where like, because Shiroi's whole thing was that he was tactical. He was always, sort of in the background commanding his troops. And I get that that's what this guy's going to be too. But Shiroi worked because no one really trusts him. And he's always kind of shadowy. And he's just another player. Like he just happens to be really good. The guy from Overlord is the boss. Everyone thinks he's amazing. They all follow him unquestioningly. It just...
Also, this is really disappointing. This show's like action is really disappointing coming from
the action looks is whatever. If you watched episode 2, dude, you would have got so, because the whole thing, like, he met them all. He called everybody to that stadium place. 10 minutes in, all they had done is stand in that stadium. They were all just standing for 10 minutes, just talking back and forth, standing. And I was like, I can't do it. This is anime Janai. I can't do this.
like what? Like I can't stand shows like this. Like it's and also on so many levels like this, there's really intricate plot holes. Like, first of all, how did he get sent to that world? Right. Like they never. And I know that's one of. I know that, but if you're 10 volumes in and that kind of question hasn't been addressed, why am I still reading?
I think he said it.
Or why would I?
But it's some kind of magical thing. I don't know, and I don't care. Let's move on.
And another thing is the cop outs in this show. It's gonna be a worse Sword Art Online, I swear.
Yeah.
All right, Rampo Kitan, Game of Lapis. You watched this show?
I watched the first episode. I didn't like it. Every single person I've read who said that they were interested in this show, every single one said, I love detective stories. I don't like mysteries or detective stories.
I don't like anime detective stories because Japanese mystery is weird to me because what they do a lot of the time, and maybe this show is different, maybe I'm mischaracterizing it, but a lot of the time in Japanese mystery stories, what they end up doing is They rely too much on you've already seen this character, you've already seen the bad guy before, and they're already doing bad things, and it ends up always being this surprise reveal. So at the end of the day, it's like this an ongoing Scooby-Doo style. Okay, which minor character that you've seen in one scene is going to end up being the main villain? Like,
yeah.
But right. Moving on to Rokka no Yuusha.
This was a weird one. I think.
I actually liked the first episode. I actually really liked the first episode because this first episode had some really. But
you didn't finish the second episode, did you?
I didn't finish the second episode. No.
The first episode is like. It was interesting, right? Because it starts off with this fight. Like, the main character is this dude who's like, I'm the strongest guy in the world, and he shows up at an Aztec temple.
He cut when he talks, I feel like he's cutting a promo for the WWE. Like, this dude is just I'm the strongest in the world. I'm the strongest. I'm gonna take on you, Austin, at SummerSlam 25. Like,
right.
It just feels like.
But he shows up at this Aztec temple where they're having this duel to find I guess whatever warrior, and the two people are fighting, and he kicks both their asses by using weapons and traps, right?
I actually really like how they did that scene. That scene was actually very well done. He made use of he knew, it was really clear that he is a very skillful user of strategies, items, and other techniques. They had a 360 pan going.
That's where it gets me right there. 360 pan.
Really?
I hate those fucking things.
The reason I think it worked is because it was a disorienting like camera movement for a disorienting type of scene where the character was more or less trying to confuse the guys he was fighting, and it worked. It worked.
But it confused me in the process. Like I like, for me, fight scenes are all about me knowing what's happening, right?
Yeah, and it really did what you do, like, because it made it very clear that he released the spikes. It made it very clear that he released the bombs. It made it very clear that he was using those like dots.
I didn't hate it. I liked all the ideas. Like what he was doing was cool. I just felt like it was getting me lost. And I'll say there is some. I get where you're coming from, because somewhere I felt about that was the first episode of Kids on the Slope, Sakamichi no Apollon.
Yeah.
Where I don't know if you've seen that, but it was a Shinichiro Watanabe show.
Yeah, I've seen the
yeah, and in the first episode, the main character guy sees the other guy, like, beat up all these dudes on the roof. And the way that the scene is staged, it deliberately, like, throws all, like, sense of space out the window. Like, it's all, like, high shots that we just see characters' torsos all beating each other up and stuff. And it's, like, really confusing, but it's because the main character is really confused. Like, he can't tell what's going on. He's like, what the fuck? I can't believe this is happening, you know? And I was like, okay, that worked. I get why the fight scene looked like that, because they were trying to convey that.
Yeah.
So you might be onto something. Here's why the 360 pan bothers me so much, besides being confusing. And this is what made me drop this show. This show has moments where it looks really good. In episode 2, there's this scene where they're sitting under a tree in this meadow, and like the flowers are all gorgeous, and there's this awesome looking tree. And then it'll cut to a shot of like a 3D rendered environment, and they're filming it from like a weird angle, and it's a 2D character walking on a 3D rendered environment. And the 3D rendered environments look like garbage. And like when they do the 360 pans, that's when you get the 3D ground, the 3D backgrounds and everything.
I understand that, yeah. And to be honest, like from a narrative perspective, I think this show, like, rushed is a light word.
It's
what
it starts off with the fight. The fight's okay, and at this point, I'm thinking like, okay, sometimes it looks great, sometimes it looks awful, whatever. And this studio is like, they've only done like 2 shows that no one's heard of.
Actually, this dude, surprisingly, no, they've done a couple shows. I did some research. They also did Rail Wars.
Yeah.
And they did this like, one other show, and they've done a lot of like
weird shit.
But the alumni on this show are actually pretty notable, because you've got Takeo Takahashi, who's like an alumnus of a bunch of old high profile studio shows like Rosen Maiden and Tenchi Muyo. And you've got the art director and character designer who's worked with Sunrise for a long time, who did a bunch of the key animation for like Code Geass. So like the people, the pedigree behind the show actually has some level of like.
It doesn't have anyone I know. All I know is like the first fight happened, and I was like, all right, cool, whatever, I'm on board. And then they just sat in a prison cell and dumped exposition for like 10 minutes.
And I was just like, okay. This girl's the princess, obviously, and why are they talking for this long?
Yeah,
and like, cause it's like,
and at the end of episode 1, because I watched this with my cousin Boyd, I watched episode 1 with him, and he's keeping up with all the current shows, and I was like, if that was all the exposition, like if they're done now, then this will be fine. And then I start up episode 2, 10 minutes of straight exposition.
That is actually what made me drop it so far. I'll probably watch it when it's got a couple more episodes, but I can't just be sitting and being left off with exposition like that. Like my cousin was telling me, like, he was the one who tried to get me into this show, and he says, I like this show because the main character knows he's the main character, right? And I kind of found that endearing. To be honest, I found that endearing. I like
that he's like this arrogant guy, but like, it was so jarring, like I said, where it has pretty moments and ugly moments, right? And then like, I love the way the environments look, but I don't like the way the sky looks. It's always all blown out. I like the way the girl looks, but I don't like the way the guy looks,
I didn't like the lack of direction, or the lack of visual cohesion for what everything's supposed. Is it supposed to be like an Aztec background?
Yeah, what the hell? Why is it Aztec? Where is
why is it Aztec?
It's all over the place.
Like, it felt like they're
you
just.
You can tell it's not a carefully designed show. There's one part. I think Demo might have posted this. Someone posted an image where it's like a or a WebM where it's like the band that's playing like for the festival at the beginning, and you see all these people playing like drums, but what you're hearing is brass instruments.
Yeah,
like
what?
They clearly didn't think it through that much.
And that's the thing, Passione, right?
Yeah.
Passione is a studio where, because I watched Rail Wars, I'm friends with a bunch of Potaku guys, and they got me into watching Rail Wars.
Why?
So, and when I saw the series, I was like, this looks all right, but it's trash, right. And I feel like this looks all right, but it's okay.
I hope.
I feel like maybe if they can get to this,
I don't care how it turns out, but if it turns out good, then maybe I'll try it.
Yeah, but maybe they can get to the point where it looks all right, and it is all right.
It's not as bad as Chaos Dragon. So, new season of Symphogear. I haven't seen the first two yet.
I haven't. Thing is, I don't know. What is it about Symphogear that people like?
I don't know. That's why I want to watch it, because
I've never understood what. Do you remember those old threads on A that would reach 2,000 posts about Symphogear?
No, I wasn't on around that time, but
dude, I used to be on A. I wouldn't even go into the threads, but I'll be in the catalog and it'd be 2,000 posts.
What I know about Symphogear is that it's batshit insane. Because I watched the first episode, and it's idols are fighting and singing at the same time, and people are dying everywhere, and it's fucking gruesome and weird and horrible, and it's a crazy ass what's his name? The guy who did Macross. It's one of his shows. They're all weird.
Is it what's his name? Trying to remember the director's name.
Get there.
Katsumiyono is the director for this one.
Yeah, he's not the director. He's he came up with it.
Yeah, he came up with it.
Fuck, why is his name escaping me?
I know, and I know the name because I've written it.
Well, anyways, all of his shows are batshit crazy, and they're usually fun to watch. And from what I've heard, Symphogear gets really fun, so I would like to try to watch it at some point. Up next, Shimoneta to iu gainen ga sonzai shinai taikutsu na sekai, or a boring world where the concept of dirty jokes does not exist.
I love
it. It's amazing.
I love this show. This show's
the
brilliant.
First two episodes were both great.
I fucking love this show. Especially the main girl. Yeah. She's one of the best things to hit anime in such a long time.
This is that show that no one expected to be as good as it is. I like saying this is that show that has no business being as good as it is. But it's great. It's the concept of the show is that it's a post-apocalyptic, or not post. It's a what's the phrase I'm looking for? A dystopian future in Japan where everyone has these wristbands that if you say any dirty words, the wristband will detect it and you'll get arrested. All dirty words, all dirty content is all illegal. Porn is illegal. No one's allowed to look at it. It takes place...
It's basically what would happen if the feminists win.
No.
It's basically what would happen if the feminists...
Notwithstanding Jimmy's political agenda, all porn is illegal, and it takes place in this school that's the most morally upstanding school. The main character is his father was a dirty words terrorist, and therefore he can identify dirty things, and so he joins the student council to help them, because the student council are so sheltered they don't even recognize dirty stuff when they see it, except for one girl who's actually secretly a dirty words terrorist in disguise. And so she ropes him into her plans. They try to show the world dirty words.
My favorite scene is the mushroom scene, and you know exactly what I mean when I say
where
the
scene. Picture has
where the picture is basically it's okay, this show is very censored.
Yes,
you can find the uncensored version.
It's still pretty censored. Even uncensored.
It's still pretty censored. But look, if anything, just don't even worry about finding the uncensored version because it's funny either way. But just look, because I think the censorship kind of makes it even funnier.
The picture is a woman with huge tits with a mushroom between them, and the student council president frames it and puts it on the wall because she doesn't realize that it's dirty.
It's not actually it's not even a mushroom. Actually, is it a mushroom?
It looks like a big.
Or
mushroom.
was it actually It was actually a mushroom.
Yeah, I saw the uncensored picture.
Oh, you saw the uncensored version. All right, so yeah, it's basically a girl with huge boobs with a mushroom in between them, and her tongue is going down, about to about to do the jolly with it, but
do the jolly.
But like it's framed in such a way, and they're like, oh, what's wrong? It looked really beautiful. It looked nice. It's like a little girl with a mushroom, so cute. There's nothing wrong with that. And then the main character is just like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, that's a fucking...
It's great. It's lots of perverse comedy, but not in the way that other shows do it. Not the... It's not... It doesn't really feel fan servicey at all. It's just about pushing dirty jokes,
Before you watch this series, right? I would like you all to look up the Japanese definitions of dick, pussy, and boobs. Right. Because you need those.
There's lots of puns.
There's loads of puns, and you need those.
My favorite thing about the show is that it's sort of like a social commentary, right? Because the idea is that it's trying to tell you that censorship makes people stupid. It makes so all these kids, because they've never seen all this stuff, they don't know what it is. They don't even know it when it hits them. None of them knows how pregnancy works, And it's sort of like the movie Idiocracy, where it's like it's so over the top that it couldn't possibly be real, but it does say something about our culture that like this is what censorship will do, It will make a bunch of dumb kids.
It's actually with that assertion, it's kind of like the inverse version of Idiocracy, because I mean, the world isn't necessarily bad.
Supposedly,
there isn't like
it's better.
Supposedly, it's a utopia, but like everyone's an idiot. Like you've got this one girl who's actually like the brainiest person in the school. Like she's like a scientist, but she literally doesn't know where babies come from. And it's the most hilarious thing, because she's like in such a scientific. I must find the secret to human life.
I think that while it sucks that the show is so censored, I think it makes the point even stronger. Like to look at this show and be like, a show that's about anti-censorship is being censored, and it kind of makes it even stronger of a rallying cry,
Yeah, because you know, and the thing is, instead of them, and I love the fact that instead of them using regular like Gaussian censorship, they use this like whenever you see something that's censored, they use this like little image. I don't know what to call, like chibi characters. Like they make the censorship very overt. That's the thing. Like they
it's not
actually
like beam
say
of
something,
light shooting across the screen.
Yeah, it's not the stupid freaking shadows and beam of light. Like half the freaking animation is completely covered, so you can't see jack shit. Like they always do in regular anime censorship. But yeah, that kind. All right,
so next up, Sore ga Seiyu. Have you watched it?
We talked. No, I haven't watched it yet, but we talked about this.
Sore ga Seiyu is a new Gonzo show. If I had to compare it to other Gonzo shows, it's more along the lines of like Saki. It's not an action show, and it's not a weird experimental show. It's more of a cute girls doing cute things show. It's from the writer of Shirobako, and it's about Seiyuu. Which are voice actors for those who don't know. It's about like the daily lives of Seiyuu basically, and it's a lot like Shirobako in that it's like explaining to you what it's like to be like the point of it is to show you just like here's industry insider stuff, I'll say, because Shirobako, what made that show so amazing, other than like being this great love letter to anime, was that it was so dense. It was constantly moving. It had all these characters who were all like really complex, and it was sad. Like it was hard to watch because it was so difficult to live their lives. Sore ga Seiyu is like the light version of that, where,
and I feel like I already talked about why I think this is.
Yeah, I don't know entirely that I agree, because the show it's not trying to paint Seiyuu as like being easy, right? Like the three main girls are all newbies. They're having a hard time breaking into the industry. They've been having it rough, and it does portray that it's rough. But it does it in a much more slice of lifey, colorful, poppy-looking show where the girls are all really cute and moe, and it's not really pushing that like fucking nose to the grindstone angle that Shirobako was. And I mean, partly it's just that being Seiyu's not exactly like that. It's not as it's more individual. This is just focusing on the characters trying to do their jobs, not on like the whole community surrounding it. But the ways that it's similar to Shirobako are what make what make it look worse, because like for instance the main character has a plushie that constantly exposits what everything means, and it's like that just happened in Shirobako 5 minutes ago, you know. But it does have lots of cool references to other anime. Each episode, the ending theme, during the ending, the girls will suddenly break out into another anime song. The first episode, they suddenly start singing the Evangelion opening, which was awesome. Wow. But then even more unexpected, in episode 2, they broke out into the first Sayonara Zetsubo Sensei opening. I was like, whoa! Like, I didn't even realize that song was popular.
How do they get those, like, rights?
I don't know. They have, like, there's lots of like other voice actors show up as themselves. In episode 2, Hiroshi Kamiya is there as Hiroshi Kamiya.
Are you dead?
He just walks into like he works for the same agency as the main girl, and he just like walks in and it's just him, and he's like obsessed with cats apparently. And like
that's great.
Yeah, so like I'll say that when I watched the first episode, I was like, this seems okay, and by the end of episode 2, I started liking it because it found a direction, because like basically the three main girls they were talking in the booth during like this recording, and one of the sound guys is like, hey, you three girls, at the end of episode 2 he's like, hey, we're gonna do a radio show, you know. So the idea is that these three girls who are these newbie seiyuu are gonna get their own radio show, and I was like, okay, there's actually a plot now. So
do you watch seiyus on radio shows though?
No.
Like have you ever caught,
because there's no subtitles.
I caught one that was subtitled, and like it's a really weird story, but like the seiyus of Attack on Titan basically was singing the opening of Attack on Titan at the end, and then as soon as the episode was done, the voice actor for Mikasa was like, "Korobanimi Garado spot to take it." Everybody started breaking out into laughter.
Think about it. What I'm most excited about with this show is that, like, because I've always wanted to get into seiyuu in a big way, but it's hard if you don't know Japanese, because seiyuu do a lot of stuff. Like, American fans don't really necessarily realize it unless they are seiyuu otaku, that like these they do like lots of radio stuff, they go to events, they do all kinds of like promotion for the shows and stuff, you know.
They fuck their band members.
Hey man,
but, like, you know,
I fully support the pairing of Tom Hack and what's her name, the girl who played Yui from K-On! When I heard that, because people were all like, "Oh, she's dating Tom Hack. That's so burn the CDs." And I was like, "No, man, Tom Hack's awesome. This music's great. I fully support this pairing." But yeah, seiyuu, you know, they do all kinds of stuff that you can't really experience in English, and sometimes it affects like enjoyment of anime. Like with Lucky Star, like the whole Lucky Channel segment was like a radio show that already existed, Lucky Channel, with Midori Shiraishi and Akira, whatever her last name was, and like they had been doing this show and then they just incorporated it into Lucky Star, and like that made sense if you knew what Lucky Channel was, but for most people it's just like, what the hell is this, you know? And I actually
but like,
my friend,
did you actually look up what Lucky Channel was afterwards?
I found out like that it was like, I mean, I kind of inferred from the show that it was like a radio show, but like my friend actually had like a CD that had like a 45-minute episode of Lucky Channel on it, and like I burned it to my computer and was listening to it. I was like, oh, I have no idea what they're saying because there's no subtitles, so you know. But
I feel like it like, I don't know, maybe this is too much to ask for like the multiple subgroups that do multiple episodes of shows on a weekly basis, but like some of these dudes could like, if any of them could like,
hey man, you know what? Good fucking point. Everything's getting subbed by horrible subs now. How about you subgroups turn your attention to other shit that needs subtitles? Like start subbing all these damn, because you could easily make a subtitle track even for an audio only thing. Just make a like a transcript or something, you know, like and then play it on a video along with this track. Subtitle this shit. Someone subtitle all the damn director commentaries that Shinbo Akiyuki has done.
all the commentaries that like, they do. Not even the director commentaries. Like I'd love to hear the in character commentaries that like they do in the Monogatari DVDs.
I didn't even know about those, but I do have like I downloaded all of Dance in the Vampire Bund once, and it came with director commentaries, but they're not subbed.
And they had no
so
subtitles,
I was just like,
right?
Someone sub this shit, please.
Someone sub this shit. Yeah, like they never do that. And you want to know what? Horrible Subs isn't actually subbing any of those shows. You know what they're doing?
It's all ripped from.
That's
what I meant though. Like Horrible Subs.
Because Horrible Subs are fucking faggots now. They just rip.
I didn't want to
everything
name every
like,
single website they're stealing from. I just mean like everyone says like because people are always like, oh, nobody wants to watch Horrible Subs because it's all ripped from Crunchyroll and Funimation, and their translations aren't always good, and it's like, I don't fucking care. Like I understand Japanese well enough that like I can if they translate something wrong, I know because I can understand it well enough to like to correct it in my head or like to find something.
Like when I'm watching Shimoneta, I know they're not saying dingleberries, exactly. Okay,
but it's
like,
funnier in English. Like if you can't understand Japanese, then you might as well have jokes that make sense in English, you know? Like I think if you're not gonna put the effort into learning Japanese, then watch a localized version because it's gonna be funnier.
Yeah, I mean Demo actually had a really big problem with that though, because he hates the localized jokes. Like we talked about this like earlier this week. He hates the localized jokes in Shimoneta though, but I like them. They're good.
They're funny. All right, I don't think either of us is watching Idolmaster Cinderella Girls.
Oh, you're watching To Love Ru?
I'm not watching To Love Ru Darkness. Ushio and Tora. Have you been watching this one?
Yes. This one feels like I never grew up from being 12.
It's
and
it's is it Shonen Jump? This is Shonen Sunday. This is Shonen Sunday. This is one of the one of the shows that one of the manga that put Shonen Sunday on the map. Okay.
Back in the 90s.
I've talked to some people. Like, I brought up Ushio and Tora in a conversation with a 35-year-old guy who used to be into anime in the 90s. I was like, oh, yeah, they're making a new Ushio and Tora. He's like, huh? That 90s thing? Like, I remember that. And I was like, man.
Yeah. This is one of those, like, manga that, like, put the... Like, during the post-DBZ shonen boom, right? When stuff like you know, One Piece, Naruto,
earlier
Yu Yu
than that,
Hakusho, all of that... Even earlier, like
90s.
this was like early 90s, like all of the early shonen, like post Dragon Ball shonen manga that were just sweeping all of Japan. This was right there at the forefront, but it never.
If you're the kind of person who still really likes Yu Yu Hakusho, go watch Ushio and Tora.
Or not even Yu Yu Hakusho, just stuff like magical stuff like Inuyasha and
Inuyasha
shit. Like, this is right up. This is right up that alley.
I'll say, as of the first 2 episodes, it is so just a shonen anime that I haven't gotten into. Because, like, I could see... I'm guessing that it goes somewhere. Because shonen manga that are popular, especially popular enough to get an adaptation 20 years later, probably goes somewhere. But, like, if you watch the first 2 episodes, it's just a shonen manga. Like, it's nothing else.
And it's like, I feel like it's weird, right? Because Mappa... They have it in their minds that we want to not necessarily bring it back, but we want to celebrate this style of anime. Right. Like, we want to celebrate the style of old school shonen macho action anime, right? And in their aping of that style, they have fallen prey to all of the negative aspects of that style. It
really is just, it's nothing other than exactly what the 90s were. Like, it doesn't feel like this is the 2010s version of Ushio and Tora. It's not that. Yeah. This is the 90s Ushio and Tora that just happens to have been drawn in 2015.
Exactly. It's not people think it's going to be like Hunter x Hunter where all the exposition was streamlined
it's not happening.
because everyone already read Hunter x Hunter. Even like a more modern example, everyone had already read Fullmetal Alchemist or watched the original. So Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood streamlined everything and got through all of the plot points so they can get to the good stuff. This is not happening. This is
felt like chapter 2 of shonen manga that you picked up,
because first episode he gets his powers, second episode a random evil comes for him to test his powers out on.
Here's some demon
just shows up to fight, and then next episode is gonna be another introducing a character that's gonna show up in like another 15
episodes. If you really
liked
liked the early arcs of Inuyasha, Bleach, Naruto wouldn't really fit the bill.
Naruto had a kind of unique early arc system.
But
Inuyasha, Bleach, One Piece, not even One Piece, kind of.
I think One Piece is like the first few episodes were like this. I think think this show happened because Masao Maruyama probably likes the manga. For the same reason that he's continued to adapt Hajime no Ippo forever. Masaru Maruyama comes to Otakon every year, and what?
Can you ask him where he gets his crazy pills? Because I don't know what kind of person. I don't know what kind of person can crash a studio, dust his feet off, and then start a new studio
and immediately do the same thing. Like, not try to do anything different. Yeah, Masaru Maruyama's crazy, but he's an old ass man, and he just doesn't give a fuck. You know, he wants to do what he wants to do, and he's gonna do it how he's always done it. But he said one time at Otakon when I saw him, he said, generally, I don't like to pick up a show that I've already done before unless it's Hajime no Ippo, which I will do forever as long as they keep telling me they want more. Like, he said,
Do you think he can do another season of Ippo even though he doesn't work for Madhouse?
Yeah, they Mappa assisted on the last season. It was like a joint production between Mappa and Madhouse for 2014's season.
You would think that Madhouse has bad blood with him since he,
I guess not. So, moving on from that though, we got to wrap this up. Venus Project Climax is not even out yet. I don't think. Episode 1 claimed it came out. I haven't seen any subs for it, so.
And episode 2 comes out in 38 days.
So who knows what that's about?
I don't know.
Third season of Working. No fucking thank you. I watched both of the first 2 seasons of Working because my little brother likes it. I did not enjoy either season. It was just torture for me.
Why? What did you like about Working?
I actually like the manga, and I think the anime did it no justice. Because, the manga, it's a 4-koma, and it's all about, really punchy punchlines. It's, just quick jokes that are funny. The anime will stretch out the joke too far and make it not funny. It takes too long for the setup, or it takes too long for the punchline, or you get the joke before it happens, you can always tell where it's going, because the jokes are 5 jokes that it uses over and over again. She's afraid of men, so she always punches them. She's too short, and he makes fun of her for it. It's all the same jokes. And when you see it coming, it loses its impact. And also, it's an A1 Pictures show.
I mean, everyone, you need to understand something. Digi hates A1 Pictures. He thinks they're Satan. He thinks they're ruining anime. He thinks they are the worst thing ever. And I kind of agree with him sometimes.
All right.
Not
Lightning
always.
Round, TV shorts, Bikini Warriors. Did you watch it?
No.
It's a Dragon Warrior parody, but where everyone has giant tits. It's really, really trashy. Danshigai. I watched the first episode. It was kind of boring.
I don't even remember. I don't even pay attention to the TV shows.
Million Doll. I'm still watching. Million Doll is about. This is weirdest concept. It's about idol blogging. It's about a girl who runs an idol blog, and is
So it's literally like an anime about us, just with idols.
So far, I have no idea if it's going to be good or not. It really seems like it could go either way. I just think the concept's interesting, so I'm watching it for now. But it's only 3-minute episodes, so whatever. Right. Okusama Gaseto Kaicho is I don't know why this is only 10-minute or 8-minute episodes, because they just decided to adapt 1 chapter of the manga at a time as opposed to 2, like most shows would do. It's a fan service comedy. The anime does not have enough fan service, and it's not long enough for you to jack off in the amount of time that it takes for an episode to go. So it's pointless. Suzaki Nishi, the animation, really cute, really young-looking girls.
I don't like studio feel. I came to this conclusion after watching Arigato season 2. I don't like studio feel.
Well, you don't need to worry about it because it's not that good. TQ season 5. Yeah. I only made it through 1 season of TQ. My brain can't handle more. If you ever want to have an aneurysm, watch TQ. It will hurt you. It's
Wakaba's Asterisk.
Yeah, Wakaba Girl is another 8-minute one. This is a manga adaptation from the same author as the person who did Kin Moza, which I still haven't watched yet, but I want to badly. Wakaba Girl is cute, kind of funny. I'll watch it until I forget about it. Wakako Zake is a 3-minute show about Miyuki Sawashiro being really into food. and she's kind of like an elitist about food. And that's it. That's all I've watched. So
all right,
we did it. It took a long time, though.
It took a while.
I was trying to rush through.
Oh, actually, wait. We missed one. We missed one.
What did we miss?
Because technically in the movie section, if you look right below the Haikyuu.
What? Where?
If you look right below Haikyuu in the movie section.
Meiji Tokyo Renka?
No.
Little Witch Academia?
Yes.
I haven't seen episode 2 yet.
You haven't seen episode 2 yet?
I also don't consider that a current season anime because it's...
It's in the weird gray area of it came out, it exists in this season, but it's not part
it's not a currently airing show. We're going to skip it. We're going to wrap up here, guys. I got to go do other things. So
I've been
Ninouh. This is 2 hours. Yeah, and I've been Digi. I hope you enjoyed. I had a good time. I think we said everything I wanted to say.
Yeah.
So that's it.
All right. Sayonara, minasan. Thanks for watching.